When we're stuck in the same routine, it can be tough to imagine New Year possibilities. But sometimes, a small change, like refreshing your dinner routine, can make a big difference in your day-to-day. Cook Unity is an easy way to reset your meal habits. Each meal is designed with you in mind, with chef-crafted dishes that bring vibrancy and health to your table. See what's possible with a simple reset. Go to cookunity.com/podcast or enter code podcast before checkout for 50% off your first week.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more. All in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting at my website, emailrevealer.com. You can also get an autographed copy of my book there. We have today with us Barry Ernest. Barry Ernest, the author of the book, The Girl on the Stairs, My Search for a Missing Witness to the Assassination of John F. Kennedy. Mr. Ernest, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tell us about yourself. Before we get into the book and all this kind of stuff, who is Barry Ernest?
Well, Barry Ernest is just an ordinary guy. In fact, that was the original title to the book before my publisher said that wasn't a very good intro. But I'm just an average citizen who became very interested in the Kennedy assassination when I was in college. Actually, I was in a U.S. history seminar course, and we were discussing the assassination. At that point, I voiced my opinion that I believed the Warren Report. I'd read it twice and found it very convincing. And a classmate came up a couple of days later and asked why I believed the Warren Report. And I told him, well, the standard line, the rifle was Lee Oswald, his fingerprints are on it, fingerprints are on the boxes at the window, he was seen at the window, he left the building, yada, yada, yada. And he suggested that I should read more. And I took that as a challenge and started to research the subject more, reading more and more and more books. And the next thing I knew, I was interviewing witnesses in Dallas and combing the documents in the National Archives and seeing the evidence that wasn't printed in the Warren Report, the evidence that they ignored or didn't want the public to see. And it began to raise questions in my mind about what was going on with this thing. Was there a backstory to this, a different story than what the government was presenting? And that's what caused me to get into my research. Focusing on that, one of the researchers that I met in Dallas gave me some very valuable information and advice. He said that this is such a complex subject, you should focus on one particular area of the assassination and research that. And that led me to looking into the story of a witness who saw the assassination from the 4th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, but not much was written about her. And the way she was treated in the Warren Report versus her testimony in the 26 volumes of evidence raised even more questions about her accuracy and her truthfulness. And that's what I spent 35 years doing, was getting to the root of her story and ultimately finding her. She was a very elusive person because, quite frankly, she feared for her life as a result of what she saw and did. And so that became my goal, to find her and to get the side of the story that the Warren Commission apparently did not want to hear.
So the girl on the stairs is Victoria Elizabeth Adams. What's her story?
Vicki Adams was born in San Francisco and studied to become a nun. Her parents abandoned her at the age of 11, so she was in this sort of land of no stability. She was moved from home to home, foster homes during her youth. She graduated from Presentation High School in San Francisco and then went to Ohio to study to become a nun. She ended up teaching in several Catholic schools in Atlanta, Georgia, and Dallas, Texas. And when the Texas School Book Depository advertised for a person that they wanted to use to help expand the Scott Forsman books that were being published in the Catholic school systems, she elected to try for that job, and she got it. And so at the time of the assassination, she was in this sort of a flux mood here between being a nun, teaching the Catholic religion, and working for a company that was promoting Catholic books in the school systems throughout the Southwest. And that all came to a head on November 22nd when, working from the 4th floor of the depository, she had a bird's eye view of the assassination. And as I say, she was only 22 years old at the time. And with the background that she had, truth was a core value to her. She was very careful with her words, and very precise with details. And what she saw from the 4th window regarding the assassination was important to the commission, but what she did after the assassination occurred is what caused the dilemma for the Warren Commission, which was investigating that crime.
And that is, let me ask you this, though. Did she know Lee Harvey Oswald before the day of the assassination?
She had met him during the course of her work. She was familiar with him, but she did not, quote-unquote, know him in that sense. Oswald was a book handler, so he was involved with filling out book orders on the 1st, 5th, and 6th floor of the depository. She worked for the Scott Forsman Book Publishing Company on the 4th floor, so her only connection to Lee Oswald was the fact that she would take orders from schools for books, process those orders, and then send them down to the 1st floor where someone like Lee Oswald or any of the other employees would fill those orders and ship them out. So she had seen him through the building, but did not officially know him.
Did she at least know his name?
Yeah, she did know his name.
Okay.
And, of course, she did know his name quite a bit in the day or two following the assassination.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I would ask this question. How many people worked in that building? Do we know?
Oh, I would say roughly 80 or so.
Okay,
complete. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors were occupied by various book publishing companies. Scott Forsman was one on the 4th floor, and there were quite a few others who had employees dealing mainly with taking orders for books that were being distributed to schools throughout that area. The first floor was the shipping area where people like Lee Oswald worked, and the fifth and sixth floors were the floors that housed the extra copies of the books that were being ordered through the publishing companies there.
And did Oswald have any business, aside from the assassination, did he have any business being up on that sixth floor?
Well, yeah, he worked there routinely.
Oh, that's where he worked the whole time, okay.
Yeah, that is where the books were. In fact, that is where, coincidentally, the Scott Forsman books were stacked that he would have to fill if Vicky had placed an order for those books.
Gotcha. Okay,
so that was part of his job, to be on the fifth and sixth floor, as well as the first floor. Once he filled the orders, he would then bring them down to the first floor, to the shipping area there, and they would package them and send them out.
Okay, so Vicky Adams, she's looking out the window because I guess she knew in advance the president was going to be coming by.
That's right. It had been published that the president was coming. She was short at the time. I didn't know this until I talked with her, but she was just a little over 4 feet, 4.5 feet. So she felt that being on the fourth floor would give her a better vantage point than standing amongst the crowd down at street level.
She's probably standing on a book. Look out the window.
Yeah, she could have stood on several of her books there and had even better view, I guess.
Okay, so now, did she see witnessed the assassination then, right?
She did. She was a witness to the assassination. She saw the limousine pull around. She heard the shots. She thought there were 3 shots. She felt they came from below and to her right, which would have put them in the vicinity of the grassy knoll area. That was all basically what a lot of other people were saying, that there were 3 shots, and they thought they came from the trees to the right of the depository. So nothing was new there. What got her into a pickle, so to speak, was when she testified that she left that window immediately after the assassination and ran down the back stairs. Now, the commission knew at that point that Oswald had committed the assassination. In fact, it had reached that conclusion a month before it even began its investigation. But regardless, it knew that Oswald was on the 6th floor. It knew he had to be in the 2nd floor lunchroom for the encounter that occurred between the Dallas police officer and the building manager. In time tests, they showed that Oswald could have reached the 2nd floor lunchroom in 90 seconds. So that was an established time frame. They had to get Oswald to that lunchroom in order for the encounter between the policeman and the building manager to occur. And that took 90 seconds. But here comes Vicky Adams, who says that right after the assassination, she was on those same stairs at the same time. She testified in the 26 volumes that she left the window within 15 or 30 seconds after the final shot. For some reason, the commission elevated that time to 1 minute. She testified that it took her 1 minute to get from the 4th floor to the 1st floor. The commission elevated that time to several minutes. So what it did basically was disbelieve the timing that Vicky said and put her on the stairs much later than what she said, apparently, in my opinion, to make her appear wrong in saying that she was on the stairs as.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because, truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more, all in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
quickly as she was.
So Vicky never saw Oswald on the stairs.
She never saw or heard anyone on the stairs. And I can attest to the fact that those stairs were at least old, wooden, dark, and very, very noisy. When I was in Dallas in 1968, I met with the building supervisor, Roy Truly, and he would not allow me up on the 6th floor. He said only employees are allowed on the 6th floor, and I asked him if he was hiring, and he got a kick out of that. So what he allowed me to do was walk around the 1st floor. And when no one was looking, I actually snuck up the stairs to the 2nd floor lunchroom. I probably shouldn't be admitting that. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations on that.
On trespassing, eh?
In any event, I went up to the 2nd floor and examined the lunchroom and everything. But the point is, the stairs were so old and wooden and noisy, I could hear people on those stairs several floors above me. I could hear them talking as they came down. I could hear the footsteps. And she confirmed that. She said when she didn't see or hear anyone, I said, well, maybe Oswald was just a floor above you. And she said that's absolutely impossible, because if you were anywhere on those stairs, you could have heard anyone on any floor above or below you. So she did not see or hear anyone when she was on those stairs.
Now, did she ever retrace her steps in time, how long it would take her to get there, and retrace it and time herself?
No, she didn't take a timing of it, because at that point she didn't realize the significance of what she had done. She had just tried to get outside immediately to see what was going on. And she told me that it wasn't until after the weekend had gone by that she realized that she had been on the stairs when Oswald was supposed to be on the stairs, based on the media coverage and everything. So she knew at that point why they were hounding her about that. The FBI, the Secret Service, the Dallas Police, the Sheriff's Office, all were interviewing her frequently during that weekend about the same thing. When did you come down the stairs? Who did you see? Did you see or hear anybody? And she couldn't figure that out until she realized the significance of when she was on the stairs. And then it dawned on her that she was there, apparently, when Oswald was supposed to be there, and she never saw or heard anyone. And she was consistent with her interviews. All these interviews were occurring, and if you look at them in the National Archives, you don't see them in the 26 volumes of evidence. But if you go to the National Archives and research her, you'll find interviews, countless number of interviews, in which she says the exact same thing, that immediately after the shots were fired, she went down the back stairs of the depository. When she was interviewed by the Warren Commission, the attorney who interviewed her was David Bellin. And she told me that when she walked into his office for the interview, before a stenographer came in to transcribe the questioning, David Bellin leaned back in his chair, put his hands on his head, and said to her, "Don't you think you could be wrong?" And she said, "I could be, but in this case, I'm not." And when she began her testimony and sensed that she was not being believed by David Bellin, she said to him, "If you don't believe me, put me in the time tests." They had a stand-in for Oswald go from the 6th floor window to the 2nd floor. They had the same police officer and the same building manager retrace their steps from outside the building to the 2nd floor lunchroom. She asked to be included in the time test to see where her actions fit in with that foot race that was occurring between these other parties. Bellin refused to allow that. And get this, what you don't know by reading the Warren report you get the sense that Vicki Adams was alone in descending the stairs. It's only until you read her testimony in the 26 volumes that you find out that another woman went with her down those stairs. Her name was Sandra Stiles. She was a co-worker. They both went down the stairs, Sandra Stiles being the perfect person to corroborate the timing of the descent from the 4th to the 1st floor. She was never called as a witness. She was never interviewed as a witness. She was completely ignored in this whole scenario. But even during her testimony in front of David Bellin, Vicki said, "Hey, if you don't believe me, question Sandra Stiles. She went with me." And according to Vicki, David Bellin's words at that point were, "We don't need her. We have you." And so therefore, everything that she tried to do to get corroboration to her journey was ignored. And this is what's funny about that. David Bellin, the person who interviewed her for the Warren Commission, that was his area of the investigation. He was responsible for determining the movements of Oswald following the assassination.
What role did David Bellin, a private attorney, what role did he have in all this?
Well, David Bellin was a staff attorney. The Warren Commission was organized with a senior lawyer in charge of various areas of the investigation. Area 1, for instance, was the source of the shots. Area 2 was the identity of the assassin, and so on. And so every area had a senior attorney, and it also had a junior attorney. David Bellin was the junior attorney to the area involving the source of the shots and the identity of the assassin. So this was a junior attorney who was identifying or questioning Vicki Adams at that point. And what happened was, in the beginning of the investigation, each senior attorney was drafting a memo in which he was going to explain what areas that team would get into, what they intended to do, the witnesses they intended to question, the problems that they encountered, everything involved in what it was that they were going to do in that particular area. David Bellin wrote a memo in February of '64 that was some 106 pages long, a portion of which discussed the importance of Vicki Adams. So he clearly knew her importance, and he stated in that memo that he was going to, quote, pin down, unquote, the time sequence of when Vicki Adams went down the stairs. So at that point, he recognized her importance and announced in his memo that he was going to resolve exactly when Vicki went down the stairs. And instead of doing that, what he did was discredit Vicki during her testimony, refused to put her in the time test, refused to question Sandra Stiles, refused to question the two other women who stood at the women with Vicki, and generally just ignore what it was that she was saying rather than investigate it further. And this is particularly damaging because in June of that year, there was a document that was suppressed for 35 years that I discovered in the archives that literally proved that Vicki Adams had been telling the truth and gone down the stairs immediately. So in other words, the commission knew 3 months in advance. It knew that she was telling the truth 3 months before it would issue the Warren report in which it said she was wrong.
So let me ask you this. Now, we have Vicki Adams and two other women were in that staircase. So we have three witnesses.
No, we have at the window was Vicki Adams, Sandra Stiles, a co-worker, Elsie Dorman, another co-worker, and Dorothy Garner, who was the office supervisor. She was the boss over the other women. So they all witnessed the assassination from there, and any one of them any one of the other three could have corroborated when Vicky left the window.
Gotcha.
But they were never summoned. Who went down the stairs with her was Sandra Stiles.
Now, a couple of things. The four women at the window, did they hear anything going on above their heads? A shooter?
No. They were on the 4th floor. The shooter was on the 6th floor.
Right.
So they wouldn't have heard any commotion above them. Only the fact that the shots had been fired.
But did they hear shots being fired from that window up above them?
Well, Sandra Stiles did, Dorothy Garner did, and Vicky did. I interviewed all three of them. Elsie Dorman was actually filming the motorcade from that window, and you can see her film if you go on YouTube and type in Elsie Dorman JFK film. You can watch the film, which is a view basically of what Vicki Adams saw from that window. Now, it's not a very good film because she was not an expert with her husband's new motion picture camera, but it gives you a general idea of the vantage point that those women had on the 4th floor.
Okay, now we have two women in the staircase. Am I correct? Two women?
That's right.
Okay, and neither of them see Oswald. Where do we come up with this story that Oswald was... Who are the witnesses and the people that say Oswald was coming down that staircase?
There are none.
Well, then where's that story come from?
Yeah, what we have is only the fact that several people saw a man in the 6th floor window. And Officer Marion Baker, who was riding in the motorcade at the time, saw pigeons fly up from the roof of that building when the shots were fired.
Oh, well, there you go.
So now we introduce pigeons into this scenario. But anyway, he ran into the building in an attempt to get to the roof because he thought something was going on up there. At the 1st floor is where he ran into Roy Truly, the building supervisor, who directed him over to where the freight elevators are, which are right next to where the stairs were. And they couldn't get the freight elevators, and so they ran up the stairs from the 1st to the 2nd floor. And that's where they encountered Oswald, who was apparently standing in there for whatever reason, I don't know. If you believe what he says in the interrogations that he went through, he was eating his lunch on the 1st floor and walked up the 1st floor stairs, which are at the front of the building, walked down the hall, and then entered the lunchroom to buy a soda. There is some controversy whether he had the soda in his hand when he was confronted or whether he didn't. Even if he didn't, the bottom line is that after he was confronted, he purchased a soda rather than run out of the building. But in any event, that's where the encounter occurred, and based on the Commission's timing.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more, all in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You discover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
It occurred within 90 seconds of the assassination.
In your study of all this, where do you think Oswald was?
Well, I can only speculate. I personally, after looking into this for as long as I did and studying this particular angle as much as I have, I think the evidence is consistent with him being on the 1st floor and coming up the steps to get the soda exactly as he said. I know that there's a lot of evidence, circumstantial evidence, that puts him in that 6th floor window. no one saw him go down the stairs. The people on the 5th floor, the workers on the 5th floor, directly under the window where he fired the shot, supposedly, heard some activity up there, but never heard anybody running. They, in turn, ran over to the side of the building where the stairs were. They did not see anyone come down the stairs. No one actually saw him from the time someone saw someone on the 6th floor at that window until he was confronted in the lunchroom. So it's anybody's guess where he was at the time. I mean, there is no evidence proving that he was in the lunchroom. There's circumstantial evidence putting him on the 6th floor, but not necessarily on the 6th floor. We have Vicki Adams now, with her truthfulness, presenting a very, very critical question as to where Oswald was in the 2 minutes following the assassination. So something is not right about the Warren Commission scenario of them getting Oswald to the 2nd floor lunchroom. As I said, in January of 1964, they concluded that Oswald was the assassin. They had not begun to interview witnesses or begin their formal investigation until February of 1964. So they had their conclusions drawn a month before they even started. And when you have something like that, you're not going to get a very thorough or unbiased investigation. You're going to get people who are looking for evidence to prove their theory rather than an investigation that is looking for evidence to come up with some kind of a solution. And that was the Dallas police. When I interviewed people on the Dallas police, that was their philosophy too. They had that case solved by 8 o'clock on the night of the assassination. I mean, I had so many officers tell me that as of 8 o'clock, that case was closed. In their opinion, they went home. And so, when you have a bird in the hand in Dallas and the Warren Commission has a bird in the hand based on the FBI's investigation, there's no reason to shake the bushes anymore. And so when a Vicki Adams and others come along disputing that, you're just going to deal with them by not dealing with them.
Okay. You said earlier that there were about 80 employees in the building.
Yes.
Do we know how many people were in the building at the time of the assassination?
Yeah, you can find out that figure. I never got it specifically. You can read the testimony of those who were working in the building at the time, and you can determine where they were at the time. I think it's Commission Exhibit 1381, which is in the 26 volumes, in which the FBI actually interviewed each of the employees who were on duty at the time, and they gave their position and whether or not they had seen Oswald during the course of the assassination. So you can do that. And there were some in the building, definitely, at that time. But how many exactly, I don't know.
Now, the women, you said there was 4 women at the window on the 4th floor, and some of them, at least some of them, did hear gunshots from above their heads.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many did hear gunshots or where they positioned those gunshots. All I can tell you is that I interviewed 3 of the women connected with the Vicki Adams story. Vicki Adams felt that they had come from below and to her right, which would have put them in the general area of the grassy knoll. Dorothy Garner also heard the shots, but she couldn't determine where they came from because of the echo that was occurring in Dealey Plaza. And Sandra Stiles basically said the same thing. She felt the shots came from below, but she wasn't sure because of the echo that was produced in that part of the city.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, in your research, do you believe that there was anybody up there on the 6th floor? We know there was a sniper's nest. There was a gun left there. Some witnesses heard shell casings hitting the ground. I've heard that said before. Do you believe at this time of the shooting that there was anybody up there?
Well, someone was up there. I mean, shell casings don't drop on their own. Right. Witnesses did see someone on the 6th floor. Some witnesses that I talked to saw 2 people on the 6th floor rather than one. Some saw 2 people at the sniper's nest window and another person on the same floor, several windows to the side of them. So there is evidence that something occurred up there, whether it was Oswald, whether it was an assassin, I don't know. We have the testimony. Who the Warren Commission relied on was Howard Brennan, who was a construction worker who was right across the street from the depository, and pointed out to law enforcement personnel who were there immediately after the assassination, pointed out the window that someone had fired a gun from, in his opinion, which is strange because I would say by 12:33 that afternoon, the police knew from at least one witness that shots had taken place from the 6th floor window. For some unknown reason, no one went to the 6th floor until some 40 minutes after the assassination occurred. It was never searched until that late in the game, even though it had been pointed out by witnesses as being the possible source of shots. The back door to the depository was left wide open. A Secret Service agent who returned to the depository some 20-30 minutes later was able to walk in to the building without anyone stopping him at all. So the building was not secured immediately after the assassination. And as I say, what's surprising is people pointed out the window where they felt the shots had occurred, and no one went up to investigate it until some 40 minutes later.
Now, if Vicki Edwards and her friend were in that staircase, and we know there were people up on that 6th floor, how did the people who were up there exit the building?
There's a very good question, actually, and it's one that I'm asked all along. If Vicki didn't see or hear Oswald, and Oswald, you're saying Oswald wasn't on the 6th floor, then how did that person who was on the 6th floor get out? And the answer to that is that Oswald was on a very strict time schedule. Remember, he had to be in the 2nd floor lunchroom 90 seconds after the assassination. That's a fact. There was an encounter between a police officer and the building manager in that lunchroom with Oswald 90 seconds after the assassination. So the commission had to get Oswald from that 6th floor window to the 2nd floor lunchroom before the policeman and the building manager arrived there. That was 90 seconds. But if Oswald wasn't on the 6th floor, let's say he was on the 1st floor and came up the stairs, how did the person who was up on the 6th floor, perhaps disguising himself as an assassin, how did he escape? Well, he wasn't on the same time schedule that Oswald was. He didn't have to be down the stairs immediately like Oswald would have had to been. In fact, if no one investigated that area for 40 minutes and the back door to the depository was left wide open, he or she or however many was up there had all the time in the world to get out of there. They could have blended in with employees who rushed back into the building, with news personnel who rushed into the building, with police who rushed into the building. Vicki told me that when she returned to the building some minutes after the assassination, after she remained outside for a while, the place was basically a madhouse with everyone running around on the 1st floor. She got into an elevator to go back to her 4th floor office with 2 men who she had no clue as to who they were. She thought they may have been Secret Service agents or detectives of some kind because they were wearing suits. So it's not out of the realm to think that if you believe someone else was up there instead of Oswald and he or she fired shots, they could have gotten out of the building without becoming trapped in the building or without having to go down the stairs at the same time that Vicki and Sandra would have been on them.
Was there another staircase or additional elevators?
There was an elevator right inside the front door that was used to go to the second, third, and fourth floors where the business offices were located. That was the elevator that people who had business dealings with the book publishing companies would use to get to the fourth floor, the last floor that had those offices located. There were two old wooden freight elevators at the back of the building that went to every floor, first through the seventh floor. That was what was used by the workers to transport the book orders up and down from where they were stored on the fifth, sixth floors. There was also a wooden staircase in the back corner of the building, which provided access to all the floors as well. And that was mainly used by employees. That would not have been a staircase used by someone coming in to conduct business with the publishing houses. So where the employees usually got to floor would be either on the back freight elevators or the back wooden staircase.
Now, back in the 60s, they used to have like elevator operators. Were these manual? Did they have elevator operators, or were these people could operate the elevator themselves, automatic?
Yeah, these were all manual elevators. In fact, the two freight elevators were the kind that you had to lower a wooden grate across the front and press the button to go to whatever floor you wanted.
Yeah, elevators have come a long way since
Indeed,
when I was a kid. Now,
and there wasn't any music in those elevators either. Can you believe that?
Now, what about Vicki Adams today? Is she still alive?
She passed away in 2007. She was the type of person that didn't want me to write about her as a sad person. In other words, she knew that she had cancer, and she never told me that until 6 months before she was scheduled to die, because she said that she didn't want me to take pity on her and write about her because of that. And I respected that from her. I mean, that was Vicki Adams.
With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because, truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more. All in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You discover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
That was the type of person that she was. She wanted what I wrote to be very honest. She was a little reluctant to talk to me at first. The way I found her is a story all by itself, but when I did find her, she was still a little worried about the fact that she knew the truth. She even told me that she felt she would end up dying with the truth. So it took a little bit of convincing on my part to make her realize that I was not someone who was out trying to use her story to further a theory that I had. And finally she did begin to cooperate. And she told me toward the end that all she ever wanted out of this was for people to know that she had told the truth. That was it. She felt that she had told the truth. She felt that she had done what we're all taught to do, and that's tell the truth. And when she did and wasn't believed, that really hurt her bad, to the point where she ended up leaving Dallas and moving across country. She went to Chicago and San Diego and then up to the Pacific Northwest. She spent 6 years with her husband touring the United States in a trailer all across the blue highways of the United States. And coincidentally, for about 3 or 4 months, she lived in that trailer about 20 miles from where I live today. And I never knew she was there. But she ended up back in the Pacific Northwest and was living a very quiet life. She wouldn't even tell her friends that she was a witness to the assassination. No one knew that because she just didn't want to get into it. Her husband had told her repeatedly that it's best for her to keep quiet about this because of what she knew, and she followed his advice. And then suddenly I came along, and she decided to talk about it.
She had never been contacted by any other researchers before?
No.
Fascinating.
She told me that no one had ever tried to get in touch with her, and I'm sure part of that was if they even tried, they ran into the same situation that I did in trying to track her down. She left Dallas, no forwarding address. I tried her office in Chicago, which is actually where she went to work, Scott Forsman in Chicago. They knew nothing about her. So I hit so many dead ends on this that it was frustrating, and I'm sure a lot of other researchers, if they did pursue this further, met with the same fate as I did until I was lucky enough to find her.
Oh, yeah, that would be with a name like Vicki Adams. Adams is such a common name right off the bat. I would wince if I had to find a Vicki Adams. I'd already be without a date of birth. Yeah.
When I started to write my book, my son convinced me to buy a computer to do it. Back then that was hunt and peck on a typewriter, which is how I learned when I was in journalism school. But with a computer, you could search out names. And literally, in my case, I hit the proverbial brick wall much faster with a computer than I was doing with the U.S. Postal Service. But it did lead me to some clues that actually panned out. And that's eventually how I ended up finding her, was by way of the Internet.
We only have a couple of minutes left. You wanted to tell me about the Martha Jo Stroud document?
That is a very important document that was written by the assistant U.S. attorney in Dallas back in June of 1964. And what it did was it was a transmittal letter sending Vicki's signed testimony to the Warren Commission in Washington, D.C. But the last paragraph of that document states that Dorothy Garner, who you may remember is the supervisor of Vicki Adams, saw Vicki Adams go down the stairs before Officer Baker, the policeman, and the building manager, Roy Truly, come up. Now, the significance of that is, one, that it was written 3 months before the Warren Commission came out. Two, it proved that Vicki Adams did what she said she did. She immediately went down the stairs. And we have a corroborating witness that saw her go down the stairs before Baker and Truly came up. What the Warren report said was that Oswald ran down the stairs to the fourth floor. The encounter occurred. Baker and Truly ran up the stairs on their way to the roof, and only then did Vicki go down after all of this had occurred. But what the Martha Jo Stroud letter was saying was that Vicki was right. She did, in fact, go down the stairs immediately. The supervisor, the woman who was her boss, Dorothy Garner, saw her go down the stairs and only then saw the policeman and the supervisor come up the stairs. She also confirmed to me that she was in a position to see Vicki go down the stairs, and she did not see Oswald come down the stairs after Vicki went down, which means that he had to have superhuman speed to get down to the second floor before even Vicki started down the stairs, which, in my opinion, is further corroboration that he wasn't on the sixth floor. This was a document that was so innocuous that if no one had been studying Vicki Adams so obsessively as I did all those years, it would have meant nothing to them. But that was a bombshell in terms of establishing Vicky's truthfulness. And what did the Warren Commission do? Well, first they had it 3 months before they wrote that Vicky was wrong. And second, they suppressed the document for 35 years. I didn't find it until 1999. And that's what prompted me to write the book about her, was the fact that I now had the evidence to prove that she did, in fact, come down the stairs when she said she did, which, as I've said before, raised the question of why didn't she see Oswald on the stairs?
If you had to testify in court, would you say that you're convinced Oswald was never on the 6th floor?
No, I would not say that.
No.
A lot of researchers have said to me that my book proves Oswald didn't kill JFK and that he wasn't on the 6th floor at the time of the assassination. And I will dispute that. I will tell them that my book proves that Vicki Adams told the truth, that she went down the stairs when she said she did, that she didn't see or hear anyone on those stairs. Does that prove Oswald wasn't on the 6th floor? In my opinion, no. It's a very critical question as to whether he was on the 6th floor. But I can't make the leap that my book says emphatically that he was not on the 6th floor and he was not the assassin. All I can say is that the Warren Commission's scenario of how it got him from the 6th floor to the 2nd floor does not match up with the established evidence at this point. It did back in 1964 because the established evidence wasn't available. All it had was Vicki Adams, and it was her word against the Warren Commission, and she lost. But now we have the corroborating witness of the woman who went down with her. We have the corroborating witness of Dorothy Garner. We have the Martha Jo Stroud document, as well as other bits and pieces of evidence which combined makes her truthful in what it was that she had been saying all along. What it means as to whether Oswald was on the 6th floor or not, I don't know.
Barry Ernest, I can't thank you enough. This very well-researched and documented book here, The Girl on the Stairs, My Search for a Missing Witness to the Assassination of John F. Kennedy. And check out the blog spots by the same name, The Girl on the Stairs, WordPress.com. Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Good night.